Hello and welcome to Granada Reports.
Hello, many thanks for joining us. Here's what's coming up tonight.
The aftermath of a suspected gas explosion in Bury. A woman seriously injured in hospital and a nearby primary school's evacuated. We'll have the latest from the scene.
Steps to improve safety for our MPs after years of online abuse and threats to their safety. But will it work?
I have had, the police tell me, credible death threats over the years. In recent times, less so. But yes, it feels a more dangerous and feels a less kind society than it was 20 years ago.
The small charity making a massive difference. How thousands of lives have been saved, just one conversation at a time.
To think that it started with something so painful as losing my dad to suicide, and to think that there's all of those people out there that are still alive today.
The sky's the limit. The rocket scientist on a mission to encourage girls to reach for the stars.
And the hawthorn blossom might be out across the northwest, but it looks like winter makes a return over the next few days. I'll have the weather forecast later on in the programme.
Well, first tonight, we start with that explosion at a house in Bury, which has left a woman seriously injured with a nearby primary school and homes evacuated.
There was a huge response from the emergency services, with police at one point knocking on doors and telling people to leave their homes.
Let's go live to the scene. Claire Hannah joins us. Claire, what more can you tell us?
Well, this explosion happened at 11:05 this morning and completely rocked the neighbourhood. And even though it happened some time ago now, all day long you've been able to smell the burning in the air. And fire crews are still at the scene, spraying water into that house. And the gas firm Cadent have got staff here as well working to make the area safe. Now, it happened in a row of 11 terraced homes. And you can clearly see one of those homes just missing. Where one of those homes stood, there's a big gap. It's been completely obliterated, and the homes on either side of that are very badly damaged too. Mushtaq Ammar lived in the end terraced house. Now, he has been here all day with his nephew. He was at home when the explosion happened with his wife, his 21-year-old daughter and 17-year-old son, and he told us he didn't think they were going to get out of the house alive.
As we heard the blast, it was, and my daughter, she was crying. She said something happening. Well, I rushed out of the bathroom and we see, oh, everything is gone.
There's nothing left of it.
Nothing left. Within 1 minute, everything gone.
They were trying to run out the front door, and the
door
wall just collapsed on
and
them.
The fire and everything.
And in the past 10 minutes, Mushtaq has just told us actually his house is going to have to be demolished. Now, as for the woman who lives in the house where the explosion was, she is in her 70s. Police have told us she was rushed to hospital and she remains in a serious condition. All the other homes in that terrace row have been evacuated. Now, the gas company Cadent says it's still too early to say what caused this explosion, but they're asking people not to speculate. And Greater Manchester Fire Service say they will be here working through the night.
So Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Service were mobilised to reports of an explosion. It's undetermined as to what caused that explosion currently, but we will continue to work with partners and with Greater Manchester Police to determine that cause. Currently, the whole of the terraced properties have been evacuated, and we're currently working with Bury Council to get people back into their properties as soon as possible.
It's also worth pointing out how the community's rallied together here, and also Bury FC is literally just round the corner. The club put an appeal out and an offer to people who've been affected by what's happened. And the football club today has become a bit of a respite centre for the fire crews who are going to be working here for quite some time.
OK, Claire in Bury, thank you.
Good to hear how the community is pulling together there. Well, next tonight, the MPs in our region who are having to adjust to a new normal, the regular online abuse and threats to their safety.
Yeah, one North West MP has told us that it's more than just criticism. He's been briefed by police about credible death threats, and the safety of his staff is constantly on his mind.
Well, today the Home Office has announced it's allocating £31 million to improve security for elected officials. It's a move Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Chorley MP and Speaker of the House of Commons, describes as a significant step forward.
So how has it come to this? And how do we ensure our MPs remain safe but accessible to all? Our political correspondent, Andrew Misra, reports.
Pro-Palestinian protests outside Parliament recently have heightened fears about the targeting and intimidation of MPs since the outbreak of war in Gaza last autumn. But safety concerns among MPs stretch back much further.
It feels like it's got worse over the last couple of decades. It might just be that 20 years ago social media wasn't such a thing. I remember being sat down in members' lobby a few years ago by a member of the Metropolitan Police and being told there'd been a credible death threat against me. And how does it affect you? Well, you first think about your family and what that means. If something happened to me, what would it mean for them?
To address those fears, today the government gave the green light to a £31 million funding package.
It'll be spent on providing a single point of contact for members of Parliament, elected officials and candidates, enhanced police protection where it's required, hotspot patrols where those are needed if there is a particular problem that's been identified, and additional potentially private security measures.
2 serving MPs have been murdered in the past 8 years. Labour's Joe Cox in 2016 and Conservative Sir David Amos in 2021.
I was in the chair on that day.
Commons Speaker and Chorley MP Sir Lindsay Hoyle has worked to improve security since then.
I never, ever want to go through a situation where I pick up a phone to find a friend of whatever side has been murdered by terrorists.
And welcomes today's funding. So does Dame Louise Ellman, a former Labour MP in Liverpool.
I had extra security when I was an MP because I'd spoken out against anti-Semitism, but now the situation is very much worse and these measures are absolutely essential.
Just last month, Greater Manchester MPs and Labour front benchers Angela Rayner and Jonathan Reynolds had to be driven away by police after being confronted by pro-Palestinian protesters.
Part of the problem is the radicalisation of some individuals because of the conflict in Gaza. We won't be able to enjoy the easy access to our members of Parliament that we've enjoyed in the past. A constituency surgery might look more like a constituency fortress in years to come.
It could mean a greater distance between elected representatives and those they serve.
Well, Andrew joins us now from Westminster. I'm guessing that some of our viewers will be thinking £31 million is a lot of money to improve security, but then others will be asking, is it enough, Andrew?
Well, some people don't think so. John Tongue, who you just heard from in the package there, says it barely scratches the surface. But it is a lot of money, and I think it will go some way towards reassuring MPs. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much money you spend. You can't protect MPs 24/7. And there's also this difficult balancing act of, yes, keeping politicians safe, but also making sure that they're accessible to the public, which is a fundamental part of our democracy. It's not a new problem, but it's one that feels like it's rising up the political agenda. Angela Rayner said recently that she doesn't go out anymore because of fears over the abuse that she might receive. One government minister said today of this package that's been announced that it misses the point because it doesn't tackle that root cause of why people feel emboldened to target MPs like Rayner in the first place, and sadly feels inevitable we'll hear more on this issue as we build up to the general election campaign, a general election in which many MPs here feel the very best candidates aren't going to stand because of fears over their own safety.
Yeah, really worrying picture. Andrew, thank you very much. Andrew Misra, our reporter there.
More news now, and there's been a steep rise in the number of children in Lancashire being homeschooled. The numbers jumped 60% since the pandemic, with 2,000 children registering to study at home last year. The charity Education Otherwise say parents removed children because their mental health or special educational needs weren't being met.
Well, here's some good news. The fundraising campaign by the Oldham Athletic chairman Frank Rothwell has reached an amazing new milestone. Frank, you remember, rode 3,000 miles across the Atlantic in aid of Alzheimer's Research UK. Well, it's now been confirmed. More than £350,000 has been raised. That money will help search for a cure for dementia, a cause very close to Frank's heart. Well done to him.
Yeah, good old Frank. Well, next tonight, it is a charity that has literally saved thousands of lives in just 5 years.
Yeah, now this is Jess, the woman behind it all, with her dad, Martin Gallia, who took his own life. Ever since he died, she's been determined to help as many other people as possible.
And those lives have been saved, not by medical breakthroughs, but simply by talking.
Yeah, the Martin Gallia project, which has bases in Wirral and Chester, has just marked an incredible achievement. They've intervened 30,000 times to prevent suicide.
Our correspondent Mel Barham spoke to Jess and to Sarah, one of the many people who say they wouldn't be here but for the charity's work.
So that 1,482
is what we've done since January.
Is how many interventions we've done since January.
Yeah.
5 years ago, Jessica Gallia was getting ready to open a charity in her father's name. 55-year-old Martin Gallia had taken his own life, and his daughter wanted to stop others dying needlessly.
So I think the Martin Gallia project.
The centre she opened in New Ferry on the Wirral was groundbreaking. The only place offering non-clinical suicide interventions on the high street, with no barriers to access, criteria, and crucially, no waiting lists.
It was a first of its kind, and I suppose in my depths of grief I didn't really realise how big that was. I knew it was needed, I knew that it was going to be utilised, but I had a lot of people in my ear saying this is a waste of time, this isn't going to work.
But it has worked.
So far this year, that's how many referrals we've had.
In those 5 years, the charity has saved thousands of lives. In fact, they've now delivered more than 30,000 life-saving interventions.
It's bigger than even I could have ever imagined. And to think that it started with something so painful as losing my dad to suicide, and to think that there's all of those people out there that are still alive today and their families that don't have to go through what we've been through because of that.
I couldn't see a way out or a way of feeling better.
Sarah is just one of the thousands whose life has been saved by the charity.
Definitely don't think that I would be alive without their support.
Her 15-year-old brother took his own life when she was just 14. Years later, she too was contemplating suicide.
I felt like I was stuck in a black hole. I didn't get any joy out of life. I couldn't get off the couch some days. I just existed rather than, there was no quality of life. There was no enjoyment in anything.
But she got help from the charity and turned her life around.
I've had another child. That would never have existed. I got married. So there's huge things that have happened because I held on. I fought through that black hole, and even though I couldn't see any hope and I couldn't see like that light, like glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, it did appear. Hi, it's Sarah from the Martin Gallia project. How are you?
Sarah now works here, helping to save other people's lives.
Okay, are you able to keep yourself safe? It's really rewarding to be able to help people in the way that I was helped, and using my pain and my story to be able to help other people realise that they can get better as well. Without MGP, I think we've saved so many lives, including mine. I wouldn't want to think about what would happen if it wasn't here. It would be devastating, I think.
What do you think your dad would have made of what you've done?
I get asked this question a lot, and I still don't know the answer. Obviously, I believe he would be really proud, but ultimately I think he would be watching this and thinking that perhaps there was another way, perhaps suicide wasn't the only option for him, and perhaps he was a lot more loved than he really realised at the time.
There are now not one but two Martin Gallia project sites. A second was opened in Chester last year, and there are plans for 3 more to open in the northwest later this year. An incredible legacy for a man whose death has led to so many lives being saved. Mel Barham, ITV News, New Ferry.
Yeah, well done to everyone involved with that. Well, now it's time for sport, and Manchester United and Liverpool are in FA Cup action tonight, David.
Yeah, both clubs are trying to make it through to the quarter-finals of the competition, and both will be in the draw for that as it takes place ahead of their 5th round ties tonight.
That has to do everything with willingness and spirit and passion. In the previous weeks was very good from this team. And therefore, we won football games. But I know football are not robots. Sometimes they have bad days. So, but it can't be. It's unacceptable, and we have to do better tomorrow.
Well, 3 days after winning the League Cup, it's a different competition, but the same problems for Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp says his injury-hit squad will need a miracle against the Championship club Southampton tonight.
It'd be really helpful if we could create something special on Wednesday night as well. I know I ask her quite a lot, but it's a tricky time, but somehow, anyway, pretty positive, and we would like to keep doing that, but we need our people for that. There's no other chance. There's only one advantage we can have tomorrow night. It's Anfield.
Now, the current FA Cup holders Manchester City are safely through to the quarter-finals thanks to a 5-star performance from Erling Haaland at Luton. Well, the striker combined with Kevin De Bruyne for 4 of his 5 goals as City won 6-2. The only downside from their night was seeing Jack Grealish go off with a recurrence of a groin strain. Well, Haaland's had his own injury troubles this season, but he's getting back to his best.
Yeah, it's coming. We're coming, so we're exciting times ahead. My fitness is getting there. I'm getting back to my best finally. I'm feeling good. That's an amazing feeling.
Really, really good. The guys really perfect the game we should play. Erling was on fire. Kevin, the connection was perfect. Erling needs a player like Kevin, and Kevin needs a movement from Erling. So it's not necessary to be a manager from Man City that realize how important is Erling and Kevin with us.
Now, Blackburn boss John Eustace said he was proud of his players and supporters despite the Championship club being knocked out of the Cup by Newcastle. Sammy Schmodek's goal for Rovers made it 1-1, which took the tie to penalties. Sadly, the Premier League side won that 4-3 after Dominic Hyam's spot kick was saved. Now, Wigan Athletic came out on top in their battle with Bolton Wanderers in League One last night. Stephen Humphrey's second-half goal for the home side proved to be the winner as it finished 1-1 or 1-0 at the DW Stadium. Defeat means Bolton stay third, just outside the automatic promotion spots on goal difference. Elsewhere, Fleetwood snatched a share of the points at Port Vale thanks to 2 late goals from super sub Jayden Stockley. His first came on 88 minutes and then he fired in an equaliser 3 minutes into added time to make it 2-2. Blackpool lost. So moving on to League Two, where Salford drew 1-1 at home with Colchester. Matt Smith was their scorer, while Tranmere and Accrington both lost. Now to international football next, and the former Manchester United defender John O'Shea has today been named as the Republic of Ireland's interim head coach. He'll take charge of his country's 2 friendlies against Belgium and Switzerland next month. Meanwhile, United forward Ella Toone scored for England as the Lionesses hammered Italy 5-1. Manchester City's Lauren Hemp was also on target, scoring twice in the friendly that was being played in Spain during their warm weather training camp.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. The squad's in a great place. We're full of confidence, and especially off the back of these 2 wins, it's massive for us to obviously take into the next few games and obviously the qualifiers coming up.
Yeah, the draw for Euro 2025 qualifiers are next week. Of course, the Lionesses were the reigning champions. It's nice to say that, isn't it, actually?
Yeah, of course they are. We'll be cheering them on. Cheers, thanks for that. Well, next up, the aerospace engineer from East Lancashire who is using her high profile to encourage more women to get into science and engineering jobs.
Yeah, Jessica Gagan, who's from Skelmersdale, is Miss England and one of the favourites to win Miss World. A big part of that contest is the contestants sharing their ideas for how to make the world a better place. And she's through to the final 40 after a speech about decarbonising aviation with hydrogen.
Yeah, a really important issue. Well, Jessica is empowering women and girls, and she wants that top of the agenda. She spoke to Zoe Muldoon from Mumbai, where that contest is taking place, and Jessica began by telling her just how tough that competition is.
So it is quite tough in terms of the girls are just absolutely incredible. Every single one of them is a role model in her own way, and every single one of them is also inspiring. I'm inspired by so many of the girls I'm surrounded with. They're all so talented and they represent so many different things.
What made you get into pageantry?
So I'd not long started my degree at the University of Liverpool, and I realised that there was hardly any girls on my course. I studied aerospace engineering, and I thought it's up to me to diminish stereotypes and show young girls how great this industry can be for them.
Like you say, you're an aerospace engineering graduate. Is the industry, do you think, too too male-dominated at the moment, and is that why you want to inspire more girls and women to get into the industry?
It's important that we get women into industry because we think completely differently to men, and that helps us solve problems. It's about what you're exposed to, and a great example would be, for instance, I use a hairdryer most days, so it's probably going to occur to me the thought of potentially creating a hairdryer that doesn't make noise. But for a man that might not use a hairdryer every day, that thought might not come to his head because he's not exposed to it. And that's why we need more women in engineering, because we think of different things.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. That's a great example. Beauty pageants have been criticised in the past, haven't they? Do you think people have a sort of archaic view of them? And is that why you're trying to challenge perceptions?
Absolutely, yeah. The big focus of Miss World is beauty with a purpose. There's girls who are raising awareness for certain medical conditions. There's girls who are going into different schools and helping different children learn languages. It's a huge field.
And of course, you're from the Northwest, from Skelmersdale. You must have huge support at home.
I do. My community are absolutely amazing, both in Skelmersdale and in Liverpool, where I did my degree. I'm representing so many people who are close to my heart, but so many people who've been a part of this journey with me.
I was having a little scroll through your Instagram, and you've got some great videos on there of when you visited NASA. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that was the most incredible trip. Just got an email saying, Jess, we've got this fantastic itinerary. We'd love you to come out to the US. And I was like, whoa, can't say no to that one. So I went out last year, and it was just the most phenomenal experience and another fantastic platform to promote the message and get more girls interested in industry.
What is your long-term goal then?
The long-term goal is to inspire more women to go into science, into engineering. I would love myself to work in human spaceflight in the future. So if I don't win Miss World, I'd love to go down that avenue. And if I do win Miss World, use the platform, as I just said, to get more women into STEM careers and show young girls that they don't have to fit into a box. Finally,
Jess, what would you say to young girls, young women that are watching this who think, I wanted to be like her, I would love to do that? What would you say to them?
You absolutely can. It might take you a few tries. I didn't win Miss England on the first go. I battled my way through that aerospace engineering degree. I had a lot of other commitments, like a job alongside. And so I would say, if there's something that you can dream of, you can get there eventually.
Well, best of luck for the final. The Northwest is right behind you. Well, the whole country is right behind you. And please come back and tell us all about it when you're back in Lancashire.
Absolutely, I will do, whenever you want me.
Yeah, best of luck to you. See, it's not rocket science, is
Right.
it?
Yeah.
Girls, young women, you can be whatever you want to be.
A hairdryer that doesn't make any sound. Sign me up. Mrs. F waxed the hairdryer on, I think, just to
Well, I
annoy
was
me
going to
deliberately.
say, men are kept awake often, I'm guessing, by them. And
No.
use them.
No, the missus does it deliberately. Here's the weather with Jay.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. It's going to turn a bit colder weather-wise over the next few days. After tonight's rain, tomorrow should be a good deal drier for the northwest, feeling chillier, and there's the potential for any showers increasingly up on higher ground as we end the week to turn to sleet and snow. Shown quite nicely on the temperature sequence, actually. We lose the oranges, the blues return across the UK, and probably Friday night into Saturday there could be some snowfall in the Pennines, the Lakeland Fells. Back to this evening, it's rain and it's moving in quite quickly. A few heavy bursts, some surface water and spray on the roads, and brisk winds for a time before it all moves eastwards after midnight and skies will clear. Winds will just ease down a notch, and most places should start tomorrow dry here in the northwest. Temperature-wise tonight, we avoid a frost, 5 or 6 Celsius away from towns, and winds easing down significantly before dawn, which is tomorrow at 7 o'clock. It'll be setting at 5:48. On to tomorrow then, a dry, bright start for most places here in the northwest of England and for the Isle of Man. Winds picking up a little bit through the course of the day. Into the afternoon, we'll begin to see 1 or 2 showers developing. If you catch one, it could be heavy, there might be some hail, and by tomorrow night, on higher ground in the Lakeland Fells and the Pennines, could be a little bit of a sleety mix. It's certainly feeling chillier, but there's lots of dry weather to be had. 8 or 9 Celsius will feel cold tomorrow. And then looking ahead through the rest of the week, as the air turns chillier, we'll see sleet and snow showers developing on higher ground, probably Friday night into Saturday, and it's going to feel colder for all of us as we roll into this weekend. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Yeah, we need a campaign for quiet hair dryers, vacuum cleaners, mixers, all those sorts of things. The dog would approve as well. Good night.
Bye.